All right, well, welcome everyone to our webinar on the 2023 PIAA and SOPA Unified Track and Field Championships. So we are going to go through everything that you're going to need to know for making your decisions on whether your team is going to attend or not. And as soon as technology catches up to me, we will go ahead and continue. You can do it, internet. All right, so a few things that we will cover today, just going through our general agenda, is we'll talk about all the requirements. We'll talk about what you can expect. We will discuss the paperwork. We'll talk about housing, and we'll talk about the letter of intent. So all of those are important pieces of what is going to make up our call today. All right, so hold please while just get this jimmied up here. Had it all ready to go, and the second I hit full screen, didn't want to go anymore. All right, so we'll just pull it over here and we will run through the slideshow. It just really does not like full screen.
It just doesn't like you today.
It does not. I've never had this happen. So I'm not sure what the issue is here.
Do you want me to try to pull it up?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yep. Give me 1 second. Unified sports, track and field. Here we go. All right.
Thanks, Ashley.
Let me.
So while Ashley's doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce the support that helps make this possible. Is we do have a few extra folks on here to assist with the presentation today, of which I am very grateful for. So they can pull some things up on the screen and also chime in for their particular schools. So our program doesn't run without our Unified Champion Schools managers, who are your direct liaisons from our programming to the schools to assist you with all your day-to-day activities. So on today, I have Ashley Herr, who is our Southeast manager, and Stephanie Taylor, who is in the Three Rivers region out west. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. So for those that don't know me, my name is Lauren Salter. I'm a Unified Champion Schools director, and I have the pleasure of working with our managers across the state in implementing UCS. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it for real this time. We're going to talk about our state championships, event information, paperwork, give you an idea of who's doing what, who provides what, go into the details about what you can expect at Shippensburg, and then discuss a little bit about postseason allocations and slots and how that's going to work this year. It's a little bit different than it has been previously, not drastically, but it is a little bit different this year as we continue to grow. All right, so here is the down and dirty of our general event information and criteria, right? So when is it? We're looking at, it's an overnight event, Friday, May 26th to Saturday, May 27th. Again, overnight situation. Our teams will arrive on Friday, and they are on the field competing in field events by 3 p.m. On Saturday is when we have the track events, and those generally start up at 10 a.m. We will be competing at the Seth Grove Stadium at Shippensburg University. We have the exact address there as well. Spectators are 100% welcome and encouraged. There is a fee associated with getting into the meet, and those things can be purchased directly online. So advancement criteria. So this is a pretty generic version of this, but want to share this out. So a winning team from a league championship with an LOI will be eligible, not guaranteed, but eligible for a slot for state championships. All the teams interested must complete a letter of intent, or how we like to shorten it is an LOI. So when you hear us say LOI, we mean letter of intent, and that simply means your team and your school stating, yes, we are interested in attending a state competition should our team qualify to go. Allocations or slots will be provided based upon the amount of teams that are interested in attending, and those details will be provided once those LOIs are in. So just to note, turning in your LOI does not guarantee a slot for state championships. We're going to dive into this a little bit deeper at the end of the presentation, because I'm going to guess that there will be a few questions, and I'm happy to answer them. I just don't want anybody to get hung up on that too early within this presentation. So letter of intent is what I want you to take from this, that the deadline of April 14th is incredibly important so we can make the best decisions possible. All right, paperwork, everybody's favorite topic, right? So incredibly important for us. So going with the due dates for that paperwork, Friday, April 14th, mark your calendars, friends. Your LOI is due, and that LOI will be submitted to your liaison. So if that's Ashley, Stephanie, Shannon, Jen, Megan, Tracy, that's where those LOIs are going, okay? Before you submit, please consider the following things just to make sure that you are good to go. It is an amazing, exciting, fantastic weekend of great competition. It is on Memorial Day weekend. So I know that can conflict with graduation sometimes, or family vacations or whatnot. So take that into account. These are conversations that in our preseason webinar that we did ask you to start talking to your teams to say, hey, are you going to have enough people to compete so you can field a team? Because you will have to go down from your full track roster to 12 individuals. So you need to know, do you have 12 students in ratio along with 3 coaches that can attend that weekend? Take into account, does anybody need any one-on-one supports? Meaning, does anybody in the regular school day, as part of their IEP, have a one-on-one support to help them through their day to be successful? And then, to make no secret of it, we do stay in a dorm hall. So we stay in Maori dorms. So no secrets there, just being upfront with folks so they are aware and know that we will be staying in the dorms. All teams stay there. Spectators, however, are not staying in those dorms. They're responsible for their own housing and associated entry fees into the meet. Next important day, mark on your calendars, is May 18th. So for all the 9 qualifying teams, the paperwork is going to be due for housing, meals, etc., for the championship attendees. So all that will come in and has to be in May 18th. It's a very strict deadline because we have to turn everything into the PIAA, heat everybody, provide the housing, everything the very next day. So we need time to make sure that that is processed appropriately and in a very timely manner for them. Here's what your letter of intent looks like. If you have not received it, you will be receiving it very soon, is your letter of intent with some associated information similar to what we're covering today. But it is a form that looks very similar to this that will say, yes, our team wants to attend. No, our team does not want to attend, and that means states. So it's very specific on the letter that you will be receiving. There's a couple other pages that are attached to that document. We only need the first page. We only need this with the signatures of folks that are on here. So a principal or an athletic director also has to sign this piece of paper. The other forms that will come along, and it's good to start thinking about now, who's going to room with who. It's a form that looks similar to this. So we pair up folks as closely as we can. So here's a quick snapshot of that. The next slide is actually going to be how do we match those folks up. Thanks, Ashley. So at the bottom here, you'll see the beautiful picture of Bowery Hall. So this is a glimpse at the dorm that we traditionally stay at. All participants are expected to stay in the dorms. So we're not having people transport to and from different places. Everybody's staying in the dorms regardless of how close they live to this space, right? So we stay 2 students to a room as long as they're same gender, athletes with athletes, partners with partners. If an athlete and a partner are rooming together, they will need written consent from the guardians, just acknowledging that everybody is good with that. Opposite gendered siblings are also permitted to room together with written consent of the guardians. Also, this is all going to be on the housing forms too, so don't feel like you have to memorize this, and we'll have these slide decks available for you. Just things to keep in mind while you're thinking, what are the next steps as your team is preparing for states. So all of our students are in a 4-to-1 ratio. That is traditional Special Olympics ratios and policy. So if an athlete requires additional support per their IEP, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but they can stay in the dorms as well, right? So this person should also, they're in the day-to-day activities with that student and will have the respective clearances that are needed as well. So if a bus driver, however, is planning to stay overnight, we'll put them up in a local hotel. Housing within the dorms is a very tight space. So we put those folks up in a local hotel and have them accommodate you there. They won't stay in the dorms, but we will provide them meals, right? So we'll take care of the meals for everybody there. Only official members will be allowed in the dorms, and this is monitored by Shippensburg staff. We have a staff member that stays right at a front desk as you come in the doors. Parents and family members, this is a secured event, so they'll have to stay in their own off-campus housing. Thanks, Ashley. So this is the team housing form for coaches. So a couple of things to note here is that we have to have a coach for each of the 4 members of your team, and you have to have a coach for each gender on your team as well. So if you have at least 1 male on your team or 1 female on your team, you have to have a respective coach for that individual or persons. So if a team is 1 gendered, you're good to go. Coaches that are of the same gender will house together. So we will pair up folks that are same gendered as coaches. So again, we are very tight on housing. We are grateful that we're able to have 9 teams attending. Up until last year, we only had 8 teams. Now we're up to a total of 9 teams attending, which is awesome. All right, so a little bit of who you can expect to provide what in this situation. What's the school provide? What does SOPA provide? So what we would expect from your school is that each of the teams is bringing 12 members. That is the max number of folks that can be brought, right? So 6 Special Olympics qualified athletes, 6 unified partners, or that can go to a 5-and-7 ratio in either direction. Your school will also provide the transportation to and from Shippensburg University. All the facilities that you would need are directly on campus. So the dining hall, where we're housing, and the track itself are all within walking distance of each other. So the drop-off time on Friday, this 26th, is marked at 10 a.m. We have a window for that. And then departure would be at estimate about 5 p.m. on the 27th on Saturday. You'll also provide 3 coaches per team. Remember, we've got 1 coach for every 4 athletes, and we're basing that on the genders of the team members there. Coaches need to provide the dates of current. So if you're a background check, an abuse clearance, and if they have not lived in Pennsylvania for 10 years, an FBI fingerprint check. If you are a current employee of the school in which you work, we are aware that you already have these things and you don't have to provide us that paperwork straight up front, okay? All athletes, so team requirements here, must be dressed in your track uniforms. Must be, okay? So if you buy your own track uniforms, that's fine too. Otherwise, they need to be in standard track uniform that they've been wearing in the season. A solid white shirt must be underneath that racing top if they are wanting to wear a t-shirt. Okay? And then sneakers, of course. The other thing that we need for our teams is you must have completed, and if they're on your team, I really hope that they do have that, the completed PIAA paperwork. I know that traditionally go to your schools. We definitely recommend and say that you should have those things on hand should any type of medical emergency occur, that they have current medical information available to provide the proper care. The other thing that needs to be done is a SOPA waiver must be completed. So that Google form that is sent by the managers to follow up on the PIAA paperwork has to be completed by all athletes and all partners. So what do we provide? SOPA will provide the following things. We'll provide all the sports equipment for all of the events. So you don't have to bring along a ton of extra things with you as you're trying to travel. We will also, as part of that, provide you with brand new branded bibs, right? The ones that you have for your team right now, you will not need. The people will get a new number. Keep those nice all the way through the season, please, because you need to keep that same number all the way through regular season and your league championships. At states, those 9 qualifying teams will get brand new bibs. We will also administer all of the event logistics. We'll handle schedules, divisions, awards, all of that. And we work directly with PIAA and their officials on how we manage our events, just slightly with our adaptations, right? We'll also provide housing for Friday night. And as far as meals, we will cover lunch and dinner on Friday. On Saturday, we will cover breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So dinner has an asterisk beside it because we provide $10 per person as a stipend that will be handed to each of the coaches on the coach meeting on Friday night to be able to stop and grab dinner on the way home. Right, so some details specific to Shippensburg itself. Let's take a look here. So at Seth Grove Stadium, you have the following. We have a 9-lane all-weather running track along with a long jump area. So we use the long jump pit that is closest to the entry point that we use at the track, which is right beside the start line of the 100. Then our mini jab and shot put areas are outside of the stadium in the same throwing zones that the men's and women's teams will be using. Events offered, pretty standard here, right? So we are doing everything but a 4x4. So everything that you're doing all season, just not the 4x4. 1, 4, 8, shot put, running long jump, mini jab, and 4x4 relay. The events don't change. Whatever your kids are running regular season, league championship is the same events that they will compete in at a state championship. That doesn't change at all. There are a couple of event requirements. So if you have individuals running in the 800, any participant must have a qualifying time of 3 minutes and 30 seconds or less to be able to compete in this at state championships. It is a very tight ship that is run there, and they are in very tight timelines. So there is a requirement that any individual has to have a 3:30 time. And that's not just the very first qualifying score that you submitted to your SOPA liaison. That is by end of season, that if you qualify for states, that they have to have had their best time be under 3:30. For relays, a school can have one 4x100 meter relay that must consist of 2 athletes and 2 partners. Has to be the same team that had participated together throughout the season as well. A little bit of a look at the agenda here. Please note that this is all still tentative, but this is pretty standard type of operation here that works from year to year. Is we have arrivals from 10 to 12 happening on Friday at Mowry Hall. Lunch is provided right next door. At 2 p.m., we end up having team warm-ups at Seth Grove Stadium. And then we'll have our field events that are happening at 3. So we have dinner directly after that. We have free time from 7 to 9. By 9 o'clock, we're having a coaches meeting. We'll let coaches know, hey, how are we ranking as far as what are the team scores, what things did we observe that day, what can everybody expect for the next day, so we can get everybody situated. They know exactly what to expect for the next day. On to Saturday. So we start Saturday by 6:30 to 9:30 is when breakfast is being served. So anytime in that time that you want to work with your teams of them getting up, ready to go is up to you. However, what's important is that they are where they need to be on time. So team warmups are by 9:30. So definitely don't be scooting over to the dining hall at 9:10, because it's not going to be a very easy thing to eat and then get over to the team warmups by that time. And then you see it timed out here for each of the particular events. We work directly with the PIAA. We typically have a staff that's right up by the staging tent in the stadium itself. We have this tentative schedule here, and then we're communicating with our staff back at our SOPA tent where everybody can hang out, let them know how are we tracking on time. And then we help those teams go over so everybody is running their events on time. So a SOPA escort will assist the coaches in making sure everybody's getting where they need to be. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of moving parts, but we make sure that everybody gets to that staging tent at the same time that they need to be. We wrap up Saturday by 3:30. That is what we aim to do. And then after team awards happens, we all head back over to Maori, and then people start to clean up their rooms and head on out from there. There we go. So coaches, what's expected of you? So before and at the event. I know there's a lot of dots here, but it's not that intimidating, I promise, right? It's not that bad. So we ask that you submit things on time. We will provide you with a what to bring list to send home to your team members. We did send like a packing list as part of the initial information that's being sent out to coaches this week, so you have an idea of what you should bring to stay at a dorm overnight. Make sure that students' uniforms are with them and that they are situated and ready to go. If they're having an undershirt, that undershirt is white. Athlete medications are in a safe place and that they are being distributed as needed. Make sure that the team is where they need to be and when they need to be there. So we did a little trial of some blast communications via GroupMe for our bocce championships. We'll be utilizing that same application to communicate with coaches throughout this weekend as well. So we'll help you with any updates and changes to schedules, along with being directly on site with you. We ask you that you supervise your team during free time. You know where folks are at. Not that you have to wander around and follow directly behind them, but you're aware of where they are and what they're doing. You're ultimately responsible for those folks. Watch what your athletes are eating in the dining hall. It is an open college dining hall, so there are a lot of options to choose, and sometimes some folks choose a little too much. So if you know some folks that might have some challenges with that you kind of prep them and know what the expectation is of them at those dining halls. We ask that you check the dorm halls prior to departure. We have a lot of things that tend to get left behind, and we don't want anybody to lose anything. We also ask that you make sure that your team is hanging in at Seth Grove Stadium is cleaned up prior to departure. So anything that on this checklist, these are pretty common sense type things, but just going in and saying, hey, we need a little bit of your help of basically monitoring your team, making sure that they have what they need before and after the event, and we will be there to directly support you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about postseason slots and allocations. All right, so you'll see that there's not a ton on this slide yet, and there is a particular reason for that. How we talked earlier that LOIs were very important. The slots that are awarded will ultimately be based upon league championship results and letters of intent. Those things are very important. So that April 14th, please make sure everything is in to your liaison so we can make the next decision on, hey, how are we going to distribute those slots, right? That's going to be the most important thing. Currently, we have 90 schools with just over 1,900 participants that are actively participating in competitive unified track across the state, which is awesome. We have 9 slots for those 90 teams to go to states. So letters of intent for us is the most fair way for us to go about allocating those. We're going to look at the concentrations of which areas have the most interest, and we will distribute those slots appropriately. So more information to come on that. This is the generalized information for you right now, but that will come that following week after the deadline of April 15th. If you have any questions in filling that LOI out, please reach out to your liaison so we can get you a response back and you can still get that information and put your letter in on time. All right. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn off the recording here, and I will open it up for questions.